Hi, everyone. I had the great opportunity to talk in person to Martin Gjesing and Herbert Hofmann, both of whom have conversations on Gjesing separately. But as Martin was hosting a pop-up gallery for the launch of his newest edition of Space magazine, along with a showroom for the designers we spoke with last week, we thought it would be great to do a conversation, the three of us. This conversation took place in the pop-up gallery during Paris Fashion Week, so you will hear a bit of the staff and the guests around the gallery. This is an incredible conversation with two men that are building meaningful projects within the fashion world, and I'm honored to be doing this with them again. Thank you for supporting Gjesing.
I've had like 20 years in this industry, right? The same, probably almost the same as you as well, like working for Acne and running wholesale for so many years as well. And of course it's been ups and downs, but I think with obviously the notion of me becoming kind of an old sentimental person in that sense, but I think sometimes it feels like there's some of the things that were going on years ago, which was great, and then some things disappeared a little bit with some of the new things going on in the industry, and like everything becoming digital, and like so many new kinds of brands coming up as well. So I was missing a little bit of the old style of actually people coming together, and also not just being competitive in terms of brands and running their own showrooms. Everybody's been very good at doing their own thing, but a little bit less good at just also putting it back energy and having a little bit of a different purpose than just going to market and sell as much as possible. And then that's kind of been in my head for a long time. And then at the same time, the market's just become difficult for a lot of brands as well. And so we felt that maybe it was time to do something that wasn't kind of the average way of going into market. I mean, I don't run a showroom. There's even brands here I don't work with on a normal basis in any way, but just wanted to bring people together that could need a little bit of support. So talking to Olja from One Granary and also to my friends from Estemanas and Yolanda, kind of seeing that it's difficult to get into the business right now, because if you're in, that's good, but it might be difficult. And if you're not, kind of just seeing all these people, talking to all these buyers, then it's a little bit difficult to get into the context of that. And even with like Johanna and Paulina, that has amazing brands, but couldn't find the resources to go to Paris as well. So the possibility came up of taking a part of this space, and then we felt, okay, let's do that. And then at the same time, we introduced our magazine, which predominantly has been about design and architecture. But then we did the first issue on fashion, and then we shot everybody's collections in 28 days and wrapped it all together, and then threw a party yesterday, and trying to bring different people together to kind of push some energy and some connections back into it as well.
One thing that I think is interesting about having you guys together is, Martin, you're selling something, or at least like creating the platform to sell something. But then Herbert, you're in a way you're the buyer, as well as some of the other work that you do. So I mean, from your side, what are the observations of the current fashion climate?
Big question. It's very complicated. It has been such a ride from like feeling like every shop is going to be bankrupt because of the pandemic, and nobody goes into, if you didn't have a digital platform, an online shop, like there's no way you can sell your clothing or your products that you have in the shop. To everyone being very careful, even buying online, and the next step was like the big explosion of like more, and a big growth. And this growth is completely over now. Like literally, it happened almost overnight. Yeah, it was really it's really crazy how it's hitting everyone. Like the very big ones that we all heard of like, you know, everyone was getting a little bit greedy and buying a lot of product, but it just stopped selling. And for smaller shops, of course, it's also very, very difficult when you're independent and you don't have the budget anymore, the cash flow to pay for the new products coming in. It's really right now a very difficult situation, especially from summer to winter. Winter clothing is more expensive. The big winter jackets are coming. You have higher budgets, and when there's no cash flow, you don't get your new product, and then you know it's a circle downwards. And also saying a bigger question because. It's very hard to detect right now or to figure out what to actually sell, because there's of course always the big ones. There's always the luxury brands out there that every shop also wants to have and represent, because it's always a great image. It's a higher price point. People are willing to spend a lot of money on that image that they get for the product. On the other hand, everyone is of course also talking a lot about you have to support young designers, you have to believe in the new ones, you have to want to be in the very individual and have like younger brands there that actually are the future. But now in this situation, it's very hard to figure out where you put your money, because when there is no money, do you put it on the few very big ones, or do you put all your coins on the roulette of like small ones that might maybe not becoming something? So it's a very difficult situation, because you're also very like emotionally linked to those younger brands and you want to support them, and you know that if you don't give them your money and your budgets, then it might be also over for them, because you know you have to pay for all your people that help you in the studio and for the production and for the fabrics and to travel and your office and this and that. It's a very, very, very tricky situation right now to see where the money lands, and also the consumer. Like it's a very unsafe and insecure situation right now globally in all sorts of terms. So I personally am a little bit, let's say, happy that people are reconsidering how to spend their money and their hard-earned money. Because when the world is going down, you don't need to look chic. You know, you don't need the newest bag to see what's going on in the world and to be afraid of what's going to be the next step in terms of politics, war, economy. Like it's no time to be happy, and this is what we saw the last days. Like I was in Florence for Pitti, I was in Milan for Fashion Week, and now the first days in Paris. It is a very humbling feeling to talk to other shops, to other people in the industry, to brands. But I'm a little bit happy about it. That it's not the usual. Everything is great. Everything is we're all happy, going to crazy dinners, celebration, party. Like it's not the time for it. It's in a very interesting time.
Do you think some of the problems is that there's just kind of a disconnect that you recognize between, you know, a few of the parties, whether that be like the big stores want something that's different from the brands? Is there a mix-up somewhere, or do you think it's that the global situation has, in a way, maybe the pessimism is kind of affecting everybody at the same time?
Mm. I would say it's very fascinating, because it's a very personal thing that you feel, and you know that there's something wrong right now with the whole world situation, but that's a feeling that is personal, and I didn't think that it would reflect so much in general to all sorts, to the businesses, to the brands, and to the buyers, and to the shops, and so on. So it's for me quite interesting. I've thought about it a lot the past days, because I went into the market thinking that our online sell-through is really bad, and you're a little bit like thinking, did I do a stupid buy? Did I miss something? But why is the sell-through so bad over almost all brands? Like we really talk about like 3 brands that do okay and that are having a slight growth, but that has anyway then more to do with like running and other things of like sports and so on.
So I mean, Martin, you're on the other end of the things that Herbert's talking about, and in a way you are. You're a creative director. You have these teams that you're helping kind of as like a Maji or a Sage, I guess, or, you're a guidance for a lot of designers. What are you saying to designers when they're coming to you and they're like, Martin, we're having trouble with sales? I mean, because you're like a middle ground between people, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we work in various ways. One thing is obviously that we're also running our own creative agency. So, of course, we also at the other end of doing projects, everything from shows to campaigns, like all these different things that sits next to the season sales, and then at the same time sits to the sale through. So there's all these things kind of linked to this. At the same time, as obviously we work with independent designers as well and try to support them. I think with this initiative, in the same way as that would definitely be my kind of overall advice, is also just to, I mean, you got to keep pushing it, because if not, then that wheel also stops. I think it's like, obviously, as you say, Herbert, it's like they have their teams and the studios and all these different things. And of course, when order intake isn't the same, it's going to have an effect. But it's also finding a way where you don't stop at the same time, because all these new gen designers needs to be there. They have a very important part of their ecosystem, at the same time as they will eventually become either established brands in the future or creative directors of brands, or like working in the industry in various ways. So I think it's also, that's why we wanted to do this, and also to kind of to support them, so that whatever they're going through, either guide them in strategic ways and just in terms of like support, and also at the same time kind of help them see the light. I mean, it sounds a bit big, but at the same time, I think what I've been saying to all the people that I've worked with and that's been in the industry for a very long time is that there's a huge responsibility for them to keep supporting the young ones as well, because that's the cross we kind of have to bear. Because if people just, I think you've seen it a little bit over the years, that the bigger ones have gotten bigger, and they obviously, as their businesses have grown, then they've been fully occupied looking at that. But they have to spend some time looking at the new generations as well to help them kind of come forward. Because if you just keep building the bigger ones bigger and bigger, I mean, as you say, Herbert, that doesn't necessarily reflect in sell-through. So it's a little bit like if the system is fucked up, they're equally fucked. So it's a little bit like it doesn't help them, they're big. They're just going to fall even further. So I think that there's the ones that's been in the industry for a long time have to realize the responsibility and then figure out how to do it. I mean, and for this, because I've been talking to a lot of people, I don't have. This is not a business case, or in any ways like it's the most money I've ever spent on anything with this. And I'm not sure it's supposed to become a business. At least for us, it's not supposed to become a business case, because if that's the case, then we're just equally in it for the money as everybody else. But we have to find a way to make this a sustainable platform. And I don't know how it's going to be. We're going to have to roll it out as far as we can, and then see. Somebody asked yesterday if we were maybe interested in taking this to LA and then doing a similar platform. And of course, it's going to take some resources, and it's not our day job either. So, but we just want people to kind of jump on the bandwagon to see what we can make of this as well.
How much of, and I'd love, Herbert, to hear your perspective on this as well, how much in guiding young designers, independent designers, is encouraging them on the path that they're on versus realizing that they need to change their strategy?
Also, very, very big question. I mean, I did some lectures in fashion schools also, which I once also got told by the mayor of the school, of the university, saying that I was a little bit too negative with the kids. Just giving them a heads up, telling them how many emails I get every day of like someone writing, "Hey, I'm doing a brand, I'm focusing on socks. Hey, I'm doing a brand, I do this and that. Hey, I'm doing a jersey brand. Hey, I'm doing this and that." And you really have to be strict and critical to yourself, thinking what you actually do and what you stand for and what product you make and how you make it and how you think this is gonna be special enough to go into the market that someone will care. So it is a very difficult one also with as a buyer, like I really dislike when I go to a showroom and I'm like saying, why did you choose this color? Because this is actually not going to sell. Can you also make it in black or whatever, It's always difficult to try to be the designer as a buyer and to be too commercial and to also suggest, what about expanding the range, and why don't you offer a belt? Your logo would look amazing on a belt and this and that. So it's a little bit against my personal way of I don't shop much, very 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 little. Considering that I work in a business, I'm not touched by a lot of product. So I touch a lot of product, but I'm not touched by a lot of product. So the sexiness that I felt in product when I was younger was so high, and I would travel for like 2 hours in the train to go to a certain shop to find something that I saw in a magazine and so on, in order to wear it. But I don't really have that anymore. So it's very difficult to also give advice to a brand. But yes, of course. Giving them a little bit of a strategy idea, or in which direction you should go, or keep your signature looks. Like I was talking many years ago already to like actually a Scandinavian brand, saying you had this amazing coat. We sold 25 of them, and we ordered another 50 because we knew we were gonna sell it if you deliver it in a month and so on. So and the next season that coat was out. And I was like, this was what I would call a signature for you. I've never seen this kind of cut. You should keep it, put it in other colors, other materials, and so on. But then that brand, for example, also said, no, we want to develop new things, and we don't want to be stuck with that thing. And I was like, should I appreciate that, or should I think let's call it stupid, because you need to pay the rent. So, and every big brand has their signature pieces, luxury brands are also not reinventing the handbag every time, so why would you kick a bestseller? But yeah, this is always the difficult part to not make the creative part lower or less interesting than the selling part and the merchandising part. But yeah, usually I try to trust them as much as possible, to think, hey, they came so far already, they will figure out the last meters as well, but sometimes not. And they don't know, yeah.
But I think it's always tricky, right? Because it's I mean, we've been running a strategic agency for 11 years, so I mean we get paid every day to give our valid feedback on something. I think the main part of it is spending enough time and effort out there in the market, in like with everything we work with, in the same way as you go and see. It's just like, so it definitely is if you have an opinion on something, it's I'm pretty certain it's a validated opinion on something, and you would say, as you say, keep the coat or do this one and this one. But there's definitely been a lot of buyers and people that have had shallow opinions on stuff, and then but in the end, of course, as a buyer, it's great, because if you say it and you buy it, of course you also kind of you back it at the same time, right? So I think that's also where the main thing is to kind of put your hand on the stove, and then because we run our agency, I'm brutally honest. Because if like the problem is if I'm not, then I'm gonna get myself in trouble one further step ahead. Because then as soon as you kind of go into the next conversation, you'd be like, yeah, but you said this, and then now you changed your mind, and then it's like, then they've kind of gone in that direction. So I think I've kind of flipped it to being one step more honest with all conversations. Which then the people that would appreciate that's great. The other ones that won't, that's also fine. But I think I back it by spending all of my time looking at and working with the things I do. So it's still my opinion, of course. But I try to kind of serve it in the best possible way. That's how we get people to buy. They have to stay in, right? And then not going.
No, maybe just one thing, because it's also interesting to think about journalists and buyers, for example. Like not really knowing anything about the business when I started doing buying, and then after a few years, like meeting journalists and even like very famous known journalists that I would be in touch with, and like sitting at dinner and then talk about certain things and like how I see things, and it's like, yeah, well, but you know, you buyers, like, kind of in a way saying like we are just looking at selling and there's no creativity and it's all like merchandising and like sell-throughs and so on. And this happened actually twice to me, and it felt like a crazy reality check, because I also thought that we do a little bit of creative work by selecting things, or like even just picking the brand and betting our money on it, because then we give the brand visibility as much as the journalist does. But then I also started saying, well, we do the same. We have we do a little bit of like this visibility work, or a lot, but we do it with money. Like if you as a journalist say this is the next big thing and this is the next big brand, great for you, but nobody's going to go back to you 8 months later and say, oh, you said that this is going to be the next big thing, but it didn't sell. I have to put money on this bet. I have to say this. I feel this brand is great and there's something behind it, and for us it's more painful to do that. And now, of course, at Highsnobiety, for example, we see it even more, because we are talking about brands, but you know, we talk about certain things on the editorial side, but then my colleagues would be like, hey, you didn't buy this brand, this is the next big thing, this is amazing. And I'm like, I know what you mean, but I think it's a difference when you sit there and you look at the show and you think there's a great energy, but there's another thing when you look at the products and you imagine who is actually wearing this, and how long will it take until someone picks it up, until the product is good enough to hang in the store, and the price point, isn't that? It's very interesting to have these conversations, because you see it, and there's a certain emotional part to it, which then hopefully also always translates into the shop, that people want to buy it and want to be part of a brand. But often, if I don't feel it, I don't want to do it. And like I said, at Highsnobiety, like we often have these discussions of like, we give them so much visibility, why don't we have it in the shop? And I'm like, because there's no budget.
Yeah. And now with the store in Berlin, there's also a regional aspect. So you're not just thinking about online play, but you're thinking about like what would work for Berlin specifically.
Yeah. But that's another reality. Like Berlin as a market is very poor, let's say, like in the most positive way and statement. I appreciate it, because that makes people always very focused, and people think a lot about how they spend their money, their hard-earned money. And then I think I told you this already, but like I always spoke about the reality, like reality. What is reality for people? What is reality in a certain city? And the reality in Berlin is and was maybe now, you know, I also grew 15 years older in this time, and I got a job and this and that, so there is also more money. But the reality of things, which is now also interesting to think about on a global perspective, the reality doesn't look like you need to shop right now, you need to have this and that. And one example was always like, you know, also going to luxury showrooms or going to showrooms and brands that have very delicate things like silk dresses in white and this and that, and me not knowing back then what I was doing, or like starting with a buying job, not knowing what it's actually about. Salespeople or the brand would tell me, oh, you should buy into this dress, this was a bestseller and this and that, and I slowly started asking, but where is it a bestseller, in which shop, in which country? And then I figured out, yeah, this white silk dress might do well in Milano and in Paris, but not in Berlin, because nobody that I know in Berlin, and this is the reality, nobody that I know would buy a silk dress for 800 euro to sit in a park in Berlin to drink a beer that costs 50 cents and have a great time. This is not the reality. So what we did is like, you know, buying other brands and a lot of Scandinavian brands and things that we thought was having a great price point, a great image, and something that you could wear for real from day to night and go with, I don't know, some sports shorts from morning to night, and then you go into a club and easy to wash, easy to handle, and so on. So the reality of a location is very, very, very important. And now, again, after I didn't do physical retail for almost 6 years, now opening the shop in Berlin so many years later is very, very interesting, because it's a new reality. And
it's totally, the game changed, right?
Yeah.
Some of that trauma is coming back.
It's retail, brick and mortar trauma. Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's especially now that online really is such a sad space. And to be very honest, I never got it. I rarely shop online. I buy books. I buy maybe some socks and underwear. Everything there's like convenience where I know which size I am and know which quality I buy. But everything else, I don't get it. Why you would buy an expensive designer handbag online and it comes in a maybe beautiful box and then you unwrap it yourself. How sad is that? Instead of going into a shop, having an interaction, walking around with this bag, which I actually also don't like. I don't like things in my hands. I like to walk around without anything. I just like my pockets full with my phone and wallet. But this old school feeling of getting nicely treated, knowing where you invest, that you maybe invested into real people that actually were in the shop, that actually really like the stuff that you're selling them, is a different story. And I'm very happy that this is getting back. And now, since online is so bad, it's so fucking amazing to have this shop now since almost 4 months now. That people come into the space. There's great acoustics. We put like all our money in making the acoustics great, a great sound system. That people want to hang out there and keep it real. Like it's a nicely designed space, but we kept it also very raw, very Berlin. I want people to be able to touch things and to not feel alienated by also sometimes crazy prices, but it should feel like a nice space where people just touch things, get inspired, and walk out, and maybe explore new things, and then walk out and maybe not buy something, but there should be no pressure.
Yeah. Martin, this is something that it, of course, means a lot to you, which is why we're in the space that you're doing, this weekend. But I'm always surprised when people say that things are just going to be moving online, because I worked retail for 8-9 years, and I feel like, if anything, the physical location is going to become more important over time.
100%. 100%. And that's also, for me, we even talked about it when we did the last podcast series as well. It's like, I love retail to the very bone of it as well. I think the tricky part is obviously running when you buy for like multi-brand fashion or just fashion in general, that you have this arm's length to when it's going to be delivered. Like, you always have to kind of look into the crystal ball, and there's a lot of assumptions, hopes and dreams, like all these different things, and it's not an easy thing. And I think then part of it would be with the online, just felt also that people are trying to kind of put it on bottles, almost like they were trying to figure out how to do algorithms, like all these different things to kind of figure it out. But that's just why it's fantastic that we now have the store as well, because in order to run, I also believe even to run a successful online store is to have the understanding of brick and mortar, because and then you can't translate it all, but definitely the more of a feeling you get into it, the better. And just for me, at least, like having the two restaurants I have in Copenhagen, for example, like for me, it's amazing, because that's even there you start it every day. You're only as good as the meal you've served, or how we set up the counter in the espresso bar every morning as well. And I think that's amazing, because that reminds me every day I try to go there every day, is that you have to do it pretty well to kind of, because you don't have anything hanging on a hanger that looked the same as yesterday. You have to do it every morning.
You have to show up.
You have to show up, and you have to perform. And I think that's the beauty of retail, because you have to perform every day. And I think that's like practicing, right? It's like I was discussing somebody, or I sent an email to my team some time ago. It's like just remembering like David Beckham, that trained every day. After training, he would go on and train a little bit more. He didn't become the best soccer player in the world necessarily by marrying somebody from Spice Girls, right? It's just, it's because he fucking worked hard. And I think that's the beauty of retail. Yeah. That anything that's physical, you have to do it. And you can't just lean back.
And it's also realistic in terms of the scale. Like, it's a space that is limited, and there's a limited amount of people that can get in every day. And online is also a little bit lazy. Like, you just buy more product in order to grab as many people's money as possible with maybe the least amount, maybe like, over exaggerated, but like the least amount of effort. Whereas in the shop, you have to talk to every customer, you have to put that in the bag yourself and stuff like that, where otherwise it's probably like happening in a warehouse very quickly, very unpersonal, which also in my first job at Voo Store, like in buying, was very important to me when we opened finally like an online store, and we didn't have a website for many years before. But then when we started, I knew that we need to bring something special, and even if it's just a handwritten card, like we would sit there and we would really like, for many pieces, like there would always be a handwritten card, sometimes a little bit generic when someone buys something very generic, but sometimes we would really like, also I would pass by and I would see the lineup of things that we have to send, and I would literally like take a card and write like, I'm super happy that you bought this because I thought nobody would really get it, but you got it, and I hope you are happy with it because we only bought 2 of it, and so on. So that was one thing that also, came back as a very beautiful message from customers often. Second thing that happened also quite often was that people started writing us, and the first few times I was like, wow, we have very weird customers, because they didn't understand where it's coming from. There were people writing to us saying, hey, I just did this online order with this number, but could you please take the piece from the store that was hanging in the store? And we were like, what do you mean? Like, we didn't get it. And they were like, I want it to smell like the store. So I'm living in Korea, but I want it to smell like the store that I'm reminded of being in Berlin and so on. I was like, this is incredible.
So you took it to Berghain and like stepped on it a few times.
No, the shopper, thank God, didn't smell like Berghain, but yeah, it was there was beautiful moments, like realizing that people actually really feel attached to a store and the whole environment, and similar like to Colette, when Colette existed, that everyone spoke about the smell in Colette, like.
But I think also that's just even swinging back at the reason why the importance of the young generations of designers as well, because with retail coming back, at least there is a momentum for them to kind of thrive, because they're hopefully, we heard it also when we were talking to the Paulina and Johanna and everybody this morning as well, is that they have a lot to say and they have a different perspective. And it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of get that across to the buyers, and then for the buyers to get across to the teams on the shop floor, and then from them to get it onto the end consumer as well. But it's worth kind of doing that. And I mean, you're from Berlin as well. So I mean, and Andreas is here. For me, is like one of the best at running retail as well. I've been lucky to be a friend of his for the last 22 years. Is that having somebody that works in the store and buys for the store, you have to come and see him in the store to talk to him. I love that. And it was part of the conversation with him, because he was just like, so many people are coming here, all the sales reps are coming here, all depressed and disillusioned, and they come and ruin my mind by talking about how bad everything is. And then they ask me if I can book an appointment with them in Paris or Milan straight after. So I think it's also having somebody to tell all these stories in the stores, right?
Yeah, it's very personal also.
And in order to do that, you need also brands that have a story, because if you're gonna, exactly. Because I think online allowed a lot of generic product and a lot of generic brands, but they will not survive in a physical environment, because the sales rep needs to also take part of it, right?
Plus, you also, and this was something that I always thought was so inspiring about Andreas also, is that there was never this loud communication and this like this and that and and new here and new there and sales, like especially like that was for me so inspiring, that every other shop is like screaming sales discount here and there and like overbuy, and this is something that I always wondered and it was like appreciating how he did it, like he feel like he never overbought. Obviously at some point you have to do sales, but it's not like this greediness that exists, and of course it's
like, he still does it, right? Is that you would see a product in a store and you would like it and you would buy it, and then he'd be like, I'm so happy you like it. It's like 3 years old. I mean, I didn't sell it. I kept it in the range. I'm not saying if it's spring or summer or winter or autumn, whatever. I like it. It's going to be in my part, and I'm going to keep it on full price until I sell it. That appreciates it, right? And that, I think, for me, it takes a bit of balls. And he's always been believing in that. And I think it's like getting the people out there that also kind of keep fighting for the same things, right?
Yeah. Do you think that now we're more connected than ever through social media? And I mean, you guys both work on different medias. I feel like personally that's given the retailers a chance to slack off a little bit, maybe when it comes to teaching their clients about the different brands, because maybe the sales staff is feeling like we're all as well connected as each other, So my experience in retail is that, we almost let the internet kind of decide for us what's cool or what has an amazing story. And it comes down to which brand has a good social media strategy, But do you feel like that connectedness is actually creating a disconnect when it comes to a physical location?
I would say so, actually. Because I think there's a lot of this, like people checking out or shops checking out, social media, and it's a little bit of a bubble and an unreal thing to. Just because you have a lot of following, it doesn't mean that the product is great. But unfortunately, sometimes that's a little bit how product is being judged or a brand is being judged, and the marketing behind is more important than the product itself. We sometimes just slap a logo on it and it works. And it takes a lot of energy and being brave to actually buy into a brand that you really like, but that has like maybe an Instagram account, but doesn't look like they have a following, or it doesn't look like they do a lot of engagement things or like events and this and that. It's easy to misjudge that, because again, on the surface, often things look very, very nice and like, wow, they have a very strong branding and the logo is great, and but in the end, it's a little bit of a hollow, empty product. And then it's interesting how those brands are navigating this, putting marketing money versus product innovation or looking into new materials, new designs and so on. So it's often the wrong focus, I would say. And even that, coming back to the very first topic, is a very funny, confused moment right now of what's actually working, because in terms of, everyone also says like you have to have a very distinct look and a very distinct feeling and image behind it. When I look at the development right now, I mean, look at Gucci, like, the numbers not really show that is 100% working what they do, but what happened before was so exciting. It's not my style, but I thought it was fucking amazing, that you have like such a funny, queer, weird cast of like nerds and crazy outfits and a lot of different patterns and materials and this and that. It's so flamboyant and so loud, and I love that then a brand like Gucci would exist on the top with all their products, even if it's just like maybe in the end selling bags and simple jeans and whatever, but at least that even works on the commercial field. But then now with a new design, which is beautiful, like I would wear it. I would definitely wear it, what is on the runway. But this whole everything is beautiful and kumbaya and we are the world, and Louis Vuitton now with all the flags and everything is beautiful. It's difficult for me, like, and I don't need a negative brand. I don't need a negative brand message. I don't need all the critical messaging of the world. But it is interesting how everything is very. People are either like very shallow or trying to be very friendly with their communication and with their products. There's no edge. Nobody dares to try new things right now. Everything is a coat. Everything is a pair of pants. Everything is a T-shirt. Everything is a normal bag. Creativity is a little bit lacking, I feel, under the current state of what's going on. And whereas, as much as I love that there's a friendly messaging, it's still not easy, and it's still not very real what's actually happening in the world. So,
and I think actually that's for me is one of the interesting part of it is that, because I think for me that's also why the new generations of designers and everything that's going on is important, because they dare to be real. I mean, Paulina said it earlier today. It's like when you asked Drew, she went viral with her show, and it's like for better or for worse, actually, because they got a lot of negative feedback as well to it. But as she said, we did it and we were fine. It's like, it's also just to be real. I think real is a little bit what's missing in some of these things, because it's been either polished or planned or strategized to death, and I think that then it loses a little bit of the edge at the same time as what's in it for me, because I think it's like, it's not that it needs to be, it can be for everybody, it should be totally inclusive in so many ways, but I think at the same time it needs an edge to anything else, because if it becomes too similar, it also becomes redundant and boring, right? And then you're just back to what you were saying earlier, yeah, maybe you have enough white t-shirts or maybe you have enough pair of blue jeans. I mean, you need a reason to buy or a reason to engage as well.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, I mean, of course, it always happened. And that's what a trend is about, that everyone kind of tries to jump on the same kind of vibe and colors and so on. But but of course, in a situation like this, everyone tries to be mega safe. And therefore everything right now looks very much the same.
Yeah.
It's very, very simple. And of course, like, I mean, biggest topic after that online right now is very dead, is of course the rising prices of things. Like every brand is going up with the prices, and even when you talk to luxury brands and you ask them why and what is happening, and they would just say, yeah, because everyone is doing it. There's no real explanation, and that is also a little bit frustrating, because I'm like, I shouldn't really support this. Like, it's not really nice. And you have to, of course, as a brand, also think about the future of how many customers you actually lose, and people like me that actually saved up for certain products and things that is on the runway because I know that I want to have that, and reaching that to save up for that amount of money is becoming longer and longer, and in that period you already realize that you actually don't really need it, and then what happens is that you have a very specific, very like 1% of the population target group that is going to buy into the product, and I feel like you're not going to see those products on the street anymore unless you live in Paris or other like fashion cities or very rich cities. But I feel like those people who can afford those luxury goods are having a driver, or like they don't drive with the subway. They wouldn't walk on the street just like that. And this is literally like, without completely over exaggerating it, I feel like this is how it looks right now, that this is the only people that are going to be able to afford all this extremely expensive things. And we are talking about price increases of like at least 50-60% over the past 3 years. Like it's just not realistic anymore, and people are smarter than that. People are going on vacation for that money, or invest in a nice home or a holiday home or this and that. Like there's different different sensibility behind it.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's like the current climate is difficult, so brands play it safe, and then when brands play it safe, retailers are kind of exhausted by it or kind of tired of seeing the same thing, so maybe they don't buy as much. Because they don't buy as much now, production prices go up, which means
it's a circle of.
There's terrible. All these plates that you're trying to spin at the same time, which kind of creates the situation as a whole.
100%. But that's also why I think it's important just to keep going with the things that are important as well, and try to kind of keep the positivity in there. And then of course it will be maybe on a different level for a while, but I think it's also important for everybody to kind of leverage with that and then figure out what that means. And then it's fine if it's on in a different pace, but still real and original, and you have a message to kind of convey to the world as well, right?
Yeah. I think what you guys are both doing in your own ways is the future. And I think what it is you have your hands in a lot of pots, as they say. So you have, Herbert, it's like you've got the magazine, you have the online store, you have online stories, and then you've got now the physical location. And Martin, for you, you have your cafe, and then you also have this thing that you're doing during Paris Fashion Week. And do you guys, I see that as the future. Having these different pools, I guess, of things that you're doing. Do you guys view it the same way? Is this kind of the only way to move forward in our current world?
I think, at least from our end as well, it's like, I think it's nice to place your bet on a lot. I mean, you have to do. There's a bit of trial and error always, and it's like, I think it's just important to do various projects, and then some will fly and some won't, and I think, but that's an important part of it. In the same way as from a buying perspective, you'll buy into stuff, and then some things will take off, and other things won't. I think, of course, at my end, it's a little bit easier because I gamble my own resources and the teams, and then we can put our people into it within Moon and within the company as well. Of course, it's a little bit more difficult because you're placing orders ahead of, and it kind of needs to be reflected in the plans for everything. But I think I think it's an exciting time because you don't know necessarily where everything's going to go, which means you have to be very focused. At the same time, you have to be open for things. I think that's what this project is about as well. It's like for getting people to open their eyes and not just kind of focus on what they have in their inbox as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in general, I wish there would be a world where you can actually really go into a store and it's just a store. Like, even when we opened the shop now, it's a little bit like, I don't roll my eyes often, but like when you discuss things and like even like people asking, so what is it going to be? Is it going to be a concept store? Is it more than a shop? And this and that. I was like, well, actually in the end it's a shop. Like we're trying to sell product. If there is sometimes a concert happening, sometimes a book reading or a launch of something, fair enough. But this always existed. I feel so. But I don't want to call it more than that. I'm happy when people take it serious as a shop and they go in there and they think there's nice product.
And it's also the main business, right? So it's also that also makes it an important part of it.
Yeah, but yeah, it is becoming difficult, and also expectations. You know, I was very shy when we opened the shop because it was so many discussions and how crazy, how not crazy, how, let's say, designed or not designed should this space look like? What does the space even look like for a brand and a platform like Highsnobiety, like being like historically like, you know, a more masculine streetwear sneaker kind of vibe, and now being much broader. Big expectations. People like to also be negative and say like, yeah, I expected more. Why is it so big? Why is it so small? Why do, you know, like there's a lot of opinions and people love to share their opinions. But what I hope what happens is, in general, to keep the eyes open and keep ears and eyes open. And that hopefully now this season, and it's going to be very interesting because I feel so far the orders that I did were probably one of the most focused and, let's say, best orders I did in a very long time, because there's little budget, there's a very big focus on what actually really matters, what is hanging on the rail, and it's not the very simple, I don't know which item I should call now without calling an item out as boring, because I dress boring, but like the white T-shirt or the black hoodie or something, which I would always buy because I love to buy easy things that have a great quality and a great cut. But this time it's going to be a very, very, very sharp edit of not even looking at the, let's say, bestsellers or things that worked before. It's going to be more about what actually stands out on the rail. And not trying to make it weird, freaky, but like what actually really matters. So what I usually do when I do buy, I'm buying...
What would people want to discover in a way?
What do they want to touch? What is really like touching you when you touch it? Like, this is usually how I anyway do my buying. I'm very fast in the showroom. I go through the racks as I think a customer is doing it. I walk through and I'm like, interesting, and then it's like probably a bunch of 20 pieces, and then I go through again and select the main ones. But yeah, I'm going to be very excited to see if that is happening in other shops as well. A very straightforward, focused, very small edit of the actual collection, the essence of the collection. And for other shops, probably it's going to be like just, let's say, the bestsellers. They're going to really look into, those black pants sold really well, so we only take those, that. So it's going in two directions, I guess. One is going to be specialty, very specialized shops, and boutiques are going to be very focused on their curation, and the other ones are probably going to go very safe on the bestsellers from before. It's going to be an interesting moment next summer season.
What do you guys think about your legacy when it comes to the work that you do? But what would you want your legacy to be?
It's a small question.
Yeah, exactly. And you have 15 seconds to answer. No, just kidding.
I don't know. Good question.
For me, if I can start, I think it would be definitely like the awareness of. I also said that, and I sound like a very boring old man working in fashion, but really thinking of like giving younger people, also in my team and so on, like the idea of, and this sounds maybe also very like dry and Austrian, German, whatever, like very dry, but like you go to work. Hopefully you have a job that you really like and that you appreciate, and you go to work and you don't count every hour until it's over. You do that in order to have some money on your bank account, and then how do you spend that money? Like, I don't want to sound boring in terms of, because I love fashion and I love nice design and I love to be in a nice environment, but let's say again to a very realistic amount of what's healthy for you and how do you spend your money. And I wish that to maybe call it a legacy, like how can you teach a younger generation to spend their money very well on things that they know that they're going to keep for a longer time, that they wear very often, like trust your own feeling of like what you actually want to wear. Do you really need to have that specific shoe from that collection just because you saw it on that and that person? Or like, how do you get influenced by other people? Like trust yourself and trust your own, let's say, personality, your own character. Fashion is very nice and beautiful, and it can be uplifting. It makes you look more pretty, bigger, smaller, whatever, but shows your character. But in the end, it should not be the one thing that you spend all your money on to then be sad the moment after you purchased it, because you actually spent that hard-earned money on something that doesn't give you the energy that you need. And then to what I said before, like, can you get that somewhere else? Can you get it at a nice dinner or hang out with friends in a cafe or in a park or going on vacation together, like planning other things, going to concerts? Like I loved the past year, like to go to concerts and being emotional around certain gay icons and whatever, like things that are really giving you the idea of happiness and being confident, and like, I don't know, it's giving you good energy, what we need right now.
I did 6 hours of Metallica concert this weekend. So 3 hours on Friday and 3 hours on Sunday. And actually it's interesting. I mean, I didn't pick up I don't have any photos of it. I don't have any, everybody was filming and everybody was taking photos. It was really interesting to see them because I've followed them since, I don't know, mid-90s or something. And it's not that I thought about them all the time, but it's like I kind of saw the documentary when they were kind of falling apart and everything was miserable. And then they got a new band member, and then he kind of brought them together, and seeing them on the weekend was just insane. They were like older than ever, but more energetic than ever, and they looked so happy. So actually this kind of thing is also just like seeing, it just reminded me that seeing energy kind of go off is it's intoxicating. And I think that's what it was like a double concert. So like we were going on Friday, and then Frederick, my partner Moon, he dropped off on Sunday. He was like, he didn't have time. I was like, fuck, I need to go again. So I took one of my best friends, and it was just like, he would just text me yesterday. He was like, I'm still high on energy from Sunday. So I think, and it sounds stupid, but if my legacy should be anything, I want to be kind of a human embodiment of a Red Bull can. Because I think Red Bull is a brand that just keeps rising. It's like, it was forbidden in Denmark when I was a kid because you couldn't drink that much caffeine. So, and then I was just saying to somebody in my team the other day, it's like, Red Bull's never going to go out of market because it has that effect. So that's what I want to be.
So yeah, it's also, I mean, even like to tie that back to fashion, I mean, it's how many times.
But it's fucking hard work. That's the problem with these things,
of course. Right? But this used to be going to a fashion show for me, and like there would be sometimes a show where I'm really like, fuck, this is so emotional, and this is so actually like goosebump, and like the music, the energy, the models walking, and so on, and it doesn't happen that often. It's of course beautiful pictures,
but it's amazing when it does, right?
And everything is made for being Instagrammable, like, but then. It was so interesting with the last Margiela show, like, seeing what Galliano did before and how he always created those worlds, and also questionable if those worlds were always like appropriate, how they were appropriated and so on. But what he did with his last show, again, like not looking after trends, what is hip right now, where could I put this Margiela stitching on it, where this and that tabi and so on, but like going all in on creativity and a world that you build and seeing that like in a weird way, and models weirdly walking around as like, what the fuck, this is so beautiful, and like, and then seeing the show again and again and getting this mood and the vibe, and again, like, you see how I'm dressed, like this is not my world, but I think it's amazing to see how designers are capable with their imagination and the construction and the making of clothing, tapping into this world to make you dream, to make you push you a little bit with your romantic looks, or with trying something new, or even with the shoe that you did with Essex. I mean, like something like like seeing something that burns all of a sudden, but the whole shoe is not burning, stuff like that. Like it's I feel like that is the beauty of it, and that is very nice. And this is for me also like energy. This is energy, and it's creativity. It's not mainly about selling product. I mean, and you can say what you want about the whole Diesel group, but actually when you think about it, even like with Marni, like the things that they do with Marni is also so incredibly like crazy and weird, but I appreciate that it exists.
But it's like, I grew up with Diesel, right? It's like the same. It's like it was also all about energy in the 90s and the 2000s and stuff like that. I think it's for me, we can take parts of that back again, because it's very reassuring as well.
Yeah,
and it's transitional, so it's like but it needs to be there.
Yeah, because the rest is all it's all about marketing. It's all about merchandising. It's about which product could sell the most and so on. And of course, that's part of the game. And this is how a brand then survives. And we need to talk about it, and the brand needs to think about it. But what we said before, like this energy is right now missing to try new things and to give people and like younger designers the empowerment to actually try new things and to be out there and just do what they want, and not be that you see this in that, and we also need to do a little bit of that vibe and so on. So it's a very interesting time.